Hello again, my name is Grace and we're back with our STEM Start video for General Advice in STEM Courses Part 2. Today we're going to cover that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to succeeding in college courses, that finding support can be especially important for your success in STEM courses, and how to prepare for an exam. Okay, so first we'll start talking about the no one-size-fits-all approach. So you may hear about this approach where you just study all of your same classes the same way. However, this is probably not the most effective way to study in a STEM course. This is because different domains of study, like English, psychology, math, and biology, all have different distinct ways of studying and understanding the world. And similarly, there are different optimal ways to study for exams and finals in these courses, although some methods can be shared. Specifically, flashcards for memorizing specific terms or concepts can be pretty effective in a range of different courses, but memorizing equations and learning how to read problems to understand what equations to use is important in physics and biochemistry and chemistry, whereas studying how certain mechanisms can occur and the given structures and how they interact is a unique study tool for organic chemistry. So although in both cases it's important to memorize certain concepts and certain bricks of knowledge, it's important to know how to read a question to apply your knowledge to solve it and problem solve, which is different than a psychology or English course where you might need to be familiar with certain texts or certain terms and certain definitions of words. So in these ways, you want to take that into consideration when you're studying for a STEM course, how that's going to be different than how you prepare for your other courses. Next, we'll talk about support. I would recommend that you make some friends in the class day one. It can either be a friend that you have from another class and you're taking a second class with them, or someone that you don't even know. But what's most important is to give your number to someone else and make a group chat or a text with them. This is very important for your success in the course because if you miss a lecture or you're late to a lecture or something changes or there's a confusion about when the exam is or the meeting date, that you don't have time to email a professor about or a teaching assistant about, asking a friend can be a really good way to quickly get an answer and see if you're understanding the same information that someone else is getting too, and see if you're on the same page. It also can be great to use friends in your class to create study groups so you can review concepts together. Many brilliant STEM students do not have the strongest organizational skills. And one way for these students to counteract this is to take advantage of the accountability that being part of a study group brings. When you're part of a study group, you are with a team of other students responsible for organizing what concepts you're going to be reviewing and studying each time that you meet. To do this effectively, you need to know what topics you want to bring up and what resources related to them that you want to review with the group, and maybe even a couple practice questions to do together. This is very important for you to stay on top of it and responsible and being there for the rest of the people in your study group. And this accountability helps you make sure that you're on top of your stuff in order to succeed when comes exam day. Speaking of exams, the last part of this video, we're going to talk about exam preparation. This is a quick overview for how I usually study for my exams and my STEM courses, and we'll go into more detail in a later video about this. First, I recommend that if they give you a practice exam, you should do this at least 1 week before the exam date. This is important because in doing this, you test your knowledge, you're getting a litmus test of your knowledge at the time. And what you can do with this information is see what concepts and what topics you need to review more, and you still have a week to figure out how you're going to do that and improve in practice. So it allows you to give yourself some time to work on hard spots and prep up for the exam. And you can even take the same exam again later. I would recommend a couple days when these problems are still somewhat fresh and you haven't reviewed them too many times. And this can help you see if you're making progress on it. Another thing I would recommend is redoing the hard homework questions from the class. Although it may seem like a pain to redo every single homework question you have ever received in the class, which I would not recommend just due to the amount and length of time it would take you to do so, if you remember a couple hard questions when you're going through the homework for the first time, or remember questions that you maybe asked friends for help on or went to office hours about, now is a good time to bring those back up before the exam and take another shot at it. This can be very important because then you can see if you actually truly learn the material or if you just memorize the physical process of working through those equations and memorizing what equations to use without using the problem solving skills that you need to approach a new question asking about a similar topic. Next, I would recommend reviewing the slides from class or your notes for key concepts and equations. Sometimes professors on Canvas, if your college uses Canvas, will upload their slides as PDF. This is important because you can then review all the slides and make sure that you are following along with all the content that was covered, and you know that when comes exam day, you've seen all the topics that could be on the exam. Alternatively, if your college does not provide you PDFs of the presentations after them, you want to make sure to take detailed notes so you can review your notes and look for equations or ideas throughout your notes to make sure that you're studying all the topics that are important for you to know come exam day. Next, I would recommend that you spend the night before the test just doing the really hard questions from all of the practice material you've covered. So this could be example questions from class, homework material, or practice exam questions that you found were hard. When you are working through these questions, studying for the exam, identifying the ones that are really hard and will be a great way for your brain to warm up and practice working in this type of problem solving setting is very important for the day before the exam, because then you can just go to these select questions, work through them, and then really feel that you are ready to go and you have studied the really hard things that were challenging for you. Lastly, I would recommend that you take some strategic breaks when you're studying. Although some students try to pull an all-nighter before the exam to study, I would highly advise against this for many reasons. First, because to really truly learn a concept, you need to practice it multiple times over a longer span of time. You can't just cram it all in one day. You need to space it out a little bit each day so then it becomes part of your memory. And by having that familiarized in your memory, you're able to think about ways that questions could ask about those topics or integrate those topics into an exam format and into a problem. Lastly, it's also important that you take breaks because sometimes if you don't take breaks, your brain is going to get distracted and you're going to wander and take longer on the problems that shouldn't take you that long. And in doing this, you're not really being the most productive that you could be with your time. So I recommend studying for maybe an hour or an hour and a half, but then taking a solid break where you get up, do something physical, and then sit back down again and go at it again. But it's important to space this out and not just do this all in one sitting. I would also recommend that you go through your notes to create flashcards and a study sheet. This is important because flashcards can help you with that repetitive daily exposure to these concepts and equations that you're going to need to really study and know all the stuff for the final. But also, making a study sheet is important because it allows you to map out all the different concepts together so you can see connections between different areas of study and then different concepts, how they relate to each other. And this can be important because if you are making these connections ahead of time on the exam, you would have already thought about how those two equations can talk to each other. And then come exam day, you're ready to lay that out on the paper and make that connection because you already had the practice seeing how different areas of study can interact and can influence each other in a problem. I would also recommend that you quiz yourself. Using a study sheet can be very effective for quizzing yourself to make sure that you know all the material that you are studying. You can cover up some answers and then uncover it and then see if you really know it or not. I would also recommend using flashcards, as I previously mentioned. You can use physical flashcards or other certain sites like Quizlet or OnKey to create online digital flashcards to review your flashcards anywhere from the gym or even at home just studying before the exam. There are also other ways to study which I would recommend in preparing for an exam. For example, if you don't understand a concept, after going to office hours and trying to understand it from friends and really working on it with the materials provided from class, it may be time to turn to a different source to learn that tool or learn that problem. Specifically, you can go to Khan Academy online or other YouTube videos or find a tutor because sometimes hearing someone else explain a concept a different way can actually help you learn it better. These are just some of my tips for how to succeed in college STEM courses. Thank you for listening to part two. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.